Australia is the planet's sixth largest country after Russia, China, the USA, and Brazil. Australia is home to millions, if not thousands, of species of animals in the whole world. But however, according to urban legends, there is a monster lurking in the deep side of the forests of the Australian forest. This monster is called the Burrunjor. According to urban legends, the Burrunjor is claimed to be a giant reptilian monster that is said to resemble that of a theropod dinosaur, mostly a Tyrannosaurus rex, while other people claim the monster to be another species of dinosaurs, such as a Megaraptor or a normal regular-sized raptor. The monster is claimed to be 20 to 25 feet long. The monster is said to feed off of cattle, kangaroos, and wombats and other creatures that live in the Australian forest. There have been many reported sightings of the Burrunjor, such as in 1978, a man named Brian Clark went missing in the woods, and he was tracked down by a policeman and two abnormal bushmen. One night, after going to sleep, the police officer woke up to hear some weird stomping sounds nearby in the forest. Then, the two abnormal bushmen woke the police officer up and told them that they had to leave now, as the ground began to shake harder and harder. And as the policeman and the abnormal bushmen were running, they could hear what sounded like weird breathing sounds and large roaring sounds of the creature that the police officer had never seen before. The last reported sighting of the Burrunjor happened in 1985, when a family were traveling to Roper River and they claimed to have encountered a large reptilian monster covered in feathers. It was thought to believe that the Burrunjor was actually a myth, since Tyrannosaurus rex never lived in any parts of Australia ever. However, though, in 2014, a shocking discovery was made. Apparently, scientists discovered the skeleton of the dinosaur related to T-Rex that once roamed Australia 65 million years ago. Because of this discovery, it has now been claimed that the Burrunjor could and might actually be real. But some people do still believe that the Burrunjor is not a T-Rex and could be another small dinosaur. Despite all of this research found, there is still common debate whether or not the Burrunjor is real or fake. Most people decide to just give up. Other people claim that the Burrunjor is probably dead since its last sighting was in 1985. And since then, the Burrunjor has been claimed to be a forgotten cryptid. However, though, what most people don't know is that in 1979, just a few years after Brian Clark went missing, there was an experiment held to be settled in the Australian forest. In 1979, an experiment was to be conducted to see how long a human being could survive in a forest. 3 men were signed up to do the job, to survive in the woods for 3 days. The test subjects would be offered a $20 million reward if they would complete this experiment. The first test subject was lifted by a helicopter and was brought to the west side of Australia. He had a backpack filled with food, water, a flashlight, and a lantern, in case if his flashlight ever died out. He was also told to head to the east side of the Australian forest, where he would be greeted by a cabin, and 3 government soldiers would be waiting for him. He arrived at the cabin at 12:30 p.m., and he gave his sheet to the government soldiers, and he was taken by the government soldiers to a nearby city, where he would be reunited with his family and his children. His sheet entry reads the following: 12:30 a.m. I stopped at a nearby river to eat and get a bit of a drink. At least I had a lantern to keep me the light on so I could see what was around me. It's getting pretty dark out here in the woods. It's pretty hard to see around here, but at least I have this lantern to keep me away from the dark. 1:07 a.m. Okay, I'm starting to get a little bit freaked out now. As I was walking past in through the woods, I heard what sounded like a large roar in the distance. It was so loud that I could hear it from miles away. I didn't know what kind of creature made that roar, but immediately after when I heard that roar, I saw what looked like a group of birds were flying in the exact opposite direction as when the roar was heard. I was really freaked out on what kind of creature would made that roar. I knew that there was no way that a creature like a cattle, a wombat, or a kangaroo could make a roar like that. It had to be the roar of some other creature. 2:09 a.m. I'm still okay. Now I'm really getting freaked out now. As I was walking in through the woods, I saw what looked like a bunch of torn down, broken down trees in the distance. All of the trees were all broken down. Some of them were stacked on top of each other. I decided to walk closer to the damaged trees, and I saw that one of the trees was smashed in half. I started getting very scared on this. What kind of creature would have that much power to smash a tree in half like it was just a twig? The only animal I know that could have done that was some type of elephant, but that's not true. Elephants don't live in Australia. What kind of creature would have done this? But however, I saw something else in the distance of the broken down tree. I decided to walk much closer to it. When I saw it, it looked like some type of large footprint. It looked like the footprint of some type of large, massive creature. It had like 3 toe claws in it. It looked pretty big. It was even bigger than any creature I've ever seen before. But the more I thought about it, the footprint looks just like that of the footprint of a theropod dinosaur, like a T-Rex. Could this be evidence of a dinosaur that is living in the Australian forest? No, that can't be right. Dinosaurs are extinct. This must be some other creature. There must be some type of other animal that is yet to be discovered out here. Whatever it is, I really hope I don't see it. 4:45 a.m. I see it. I can see the cabin from a mile away. I haven't seen or heard any strange noises in the forest. I think I might be safe now. I don't think that weird monstrous creature is in sight. I hope I get back to the cabin without any delays. The second test subject was deployed in the exact same area where the first test subject was at. The second test subject was given the exact same equipment that the first test subject had, except instead of a flashlight or a lantern, he had a night vision camera. He arrived at the cabin at 5 a.m., but however, he was found constantly shaking up and down. He was panting. His face was pale, and he kept on looking around across the whole forest. He was shaking physically and emotionally. His paper sheet reads the following. 12:09 a.m. This camera is hard to navigate with. I even fell a few times because of it. All what I see on this camera is green. The only thing I can see is a yellow outline of a creature, a bird, kangaroo, or wombat. 1:08 a.m. Okay, I don't know what the heck you guys put out here in this woods, but it's not funny. I stopped at a nearby tree branch to take a break to drink some water. But after I did that, I heard a large roar in the distance. I immediately followed the roar to see what it was. And there, nearby in the bushes, I saw what looked like some type of tail sticking out of the wood, of the bushes. I at first thought it was a monitor lizard, but as I looked closer, I realized something. That was not a monitor lizard. Its tail was 20 feet above the ground. And second of all, there is no way a monitor lizard has the ability to lift its tail above the ground. Eventually, the tail disappeared into the bushes, and I never saw it. 4:40 a.m. I'm sorry for not writing that often, but I just didn't have the time to. After when I wrote the last entry, I heard the monsters roar again. I immediately turned back and started to run a bit. But as I continued running, I started to hear what sounded like large footprints in the distance. I heard what sounded like stomping noises behind me. I didn't know what it was, but I didn't want to know. I continued to run as fast as I could. I decided to turn around a bit to see what was behind me. But however, what I only saw was large massive feet stumbling right towards me. I didn't see the rest of the monster's body, but I just continued to run away from the monster as fast as I could. As I continued to run away from the monster, I saw what looked like a pretty small cave there in the distance. I immediately went in there and went to hide from the monster in hopes that it would pass by me. At first, the monster's feet stumbled right past the cave, and then the monster, I didn't know what was happening, but it seemed that the monster was trying to look for me. But however, seeing the monster gave up and lost interest in me and ran off. I never got to see what the monster looked like, but what I did know about this monster was that it was pretty big. I hope I get to that cabin soon. I don't want to end up in the jaws of whatever the heck that weird monster is. The second test subject was visibly stressed, and so he was taken to a psychologist where he is still recovering from his mental story to this day. The third test subject never came back. He was deployed in the exact same area as the second test subject on the following night. He had the exact same equipment, except he had a night vision camera. The third test subject was never found, and he was never shown near the cabin. After that, a search party was conducted to find the third test subject. They looked everywhere, but they couldn't find him. However, though, they were able to find the third test subject's camera, and they were able to find a piece of paper sitting on the floor that belonged to the third test subject. They also found what looked like weird red substance sprayed all over the floor. The police officers weren't able to make out what it was, but judging by what it looked exactly like blood. The third test subject's notes only had one entry. The third test subject's one note reads the following: 12:07 a.m. Please, to whoever finds this, please tell my family that I love them. After when I couldn't see the helicopter no more, I turned on my camera to see my surroundings, and that's when I saw it. It's large. It's very, very big. It has a large snout filled with razor-sharp teeth. It has red eyes with black-like pupils. It has feathers underneath its arms. It has very, very small arms with 2 claws on each of its hands. It has a very, very long tail. It has very, very thick legs. It's covered in scales, except its arms are covered in feathers. It looks like some type of theropod dinosaur. It looks like a T-Rex, but much smaller. It doesn't move as I write this. Its mouth is filled with saliva that is dripping from its gums. Oh, oh, oh God, it shakes the ground as it moves. After the experiment was done, the government decided to cover up the death of the third test subject by saying that he was attacked by a Tasmanian devil. And soon enough, everyone believed it, and the test and the experiment was officially over. But however, after when the experiment was done, the government put a protective fence around the entire forest of Australia in hopes that no one would come in. And importantly, nothing would come out. It has been thought to believe that dinosaurs had gone extinct about 65 million years ago when an asteroid crashed into the Cretaceous period. But however, after the experiment in the Australian forest and the death of the third test subject, and with all the sightings of the alleged monster known as the Burrunjor, the question remains, are dinosaurs really extinct, or do they live among us?